welcome to Drones Over Canada. I'm your host, Dave. Today's episode 6, and we have a very exciting episode as I promised you last week, and we've talked about in our Facebook pages. Today we're speaking with Shawn Thurber. Now, Shawn has a Bachelor in Science and Earth Sciences from the University of Calgary. He's a private pilot, and he has an advanced certificate for RPAS operations that he's had for just over a year. Now, keep in mind that the certificate only came into effect about a year ago, so he was one of the first certificate holders in the country. He's been using drones for commercial purposes for several years now. Hey Shawn, thanks for joining us. Do you want to get started by giving our listeners a little bit of idea of your background and work experience?
Yeah, sure. I'll start off. I've always had a love for aviation. And I remember in grade school, I said to myself I was going to get into aviation. That didn't happen. Was born and raised in Southern Alberta. Went to U of C, University of Calgary, and Bachelor of Science in Geography, and I specialized in Earth Sciences. So once I got out of university, I started with a company that was into aerial photography and using photogrammetry to do topographic mapping. And I did that, was with them for 13 years. So I learned a lot about aerial photography, photogrammetric mapping. And then I moved on to another company. It was Atlas Geomatics out of Winnipeg. Worked there for 6 years. And then I moved into more of my field, which was into the earth sciences. And with this particular company, I was using aerial photography, and the drones were, starting out. And I was very interested in seeing, comparing an airplane that had a camera in it versus a drone which had a camera in it.
So Shawn, we talked about how some of these technologies like photogrammetry were originally used in airplanes and how they still are used in airplanes. Are you able to give our listeners a little bit of idea how much that would cost so they can get an idea of how efficient some of this work is to do with drones?
Well, the honest truth. So these companies are still in existence using the airplanes and this more expensive equipment. Of course, like everything, it's all gone digital. They don't use film anymore, I think it's almost gone completely now. But the costs, of course, you have your Cessna 310. You've got to have the pilot plus another crew member to help out with the with the camera and running the camera. So yeah, you're probably thousands of dollars, because every hour that airplane was up there, it's not inexpensive for fuel, maintenance of the airplane, the crew that's on board, and then the equipment that was being used.
So what kind of drones do you have experience with? How did you get started in the drone world, and what kind of different platforms are you using?
Yeah, so I first looked at it for the company that I've been working for. We wanted to get a drone that we could use for survey mapping. And the main objective of that was to do stockpile inventory volumes. And so for gravel pits. And so we wanted a drone that could do that. And we ran across a company, I'll mention it, it's Kespri. And they have the Kespri drone too. This particular drone, it's a quad drone. It was, I think, specifically designed by Kespri for this type of purpose. They spent a lot of R&D in making this drone very easy to use for mining engineers or for people like myself. It also had on board a camera that could get very nice resolution, and it's all web based, and so the data that comes off the drone goes to their server. It's all processed down there, and then you have an account with them, and so you just log into the account and you can see the imagery and also topographic mapping. You can then also circle your stockpiles and then get a volume calculation. You could run a report with all those different stockpiles that you've done a volume on. All of the data, you could download it, put it into other softwares such as GIS softwares, Esri has, or AutoCAD, or any other type of mapping type of software. So yeah, that's I used that for about 3 years. Like everything, I wanted to do more, and so moved and found a different drone. It's called the Wingtra drone. It's made out of Switzerland, I believe. And it's a monoplane drone with 2 engines. It takes off VTOL, meaning it takes off vertically. It gets to a certain height and then just turns over and flies like an airplane. And this allows it to have a very long fly time. You can get 1 hour of fly time versus the Kesbury drone, where I was getting about 30 minutes. And it also had it's a bigger drone, bigger payload, goes faster. It was 3.7 kilograms versus the Kesbury drone, which I think was only, I don't know, it's maybe a kilogram, the Kesbury drone. And then the last drone that I've been actually flying here just recently has just been the DJI Mavic 2 Pro with a Hasselblad camera in it. And it's been very interesting to me. It's a much smaller drone, but the capabilities of it have been phenomenal. I've been very impressed with it. Once again, it doesn't go as far as, say, the Wingtra 1 drone, but for the purpose we're using it for survey mapping, the camera's fantastic, and it has about a 30-minute battery life, and is been very works very well as well for different projects.
So, as I said in the intro, you were one of the first in Canada to see the value in drones. And you've been involved in drones since almost the beginning that the technology allowed it. And because of your background in earth sciences and surveying, you were really able to take advantage of it early on. Would you like to detail some of the technological changes you've seen and what kind of excites you the most about the industry?
The drones and the manufacturers, because of the drone technology, is getting so much better. So we're talking about the fly time. When they first drones came out, like I think 10 minutes, 12 minutes, due to the batteries was kind of the max you could get. But with the battery technology, and with the capabilities that they're able to put into the drones, like talking about the camera, and you can also put in other sensors into a drone to get different types of data. So this has created, I guess, an opportunity for many different types of businesses, drones. And so the survey firms, they're using now drones to help them with topographic capture. For me, I work for a company that has aggregate mines or aggregate pits. So we're using it for the reclamation of the pit, for capturing the volumes of the product stockpiles that we have. And then agriculture, I know in the agriculture world, they're using drones to, for crop production, for crop monitoring. Construction projects, I'm just involved in a very, very large construction project that's going on right now. And we're using the drone so that the management of this large, it's over $1 billion project, they can see the progress and just keep track of everything that's going on in this large multi-billion-dollar project. Environmental monitoring, search and rescue, the movie industry. It goes on and on. It's been amazing what drones are now doing for all these different businesses.
So we've detailed now how much you've seen the industry grow in the last 10 to 15 years. What are the future changes that you're really excited to see? Is there any industries maybe that you can think of that aren't using drones right now or not using them to their full potential but could be?
Yeah. Well, it's almost unlimited. The you know I guess for every business that is out in the world, out doing things outside, it's basically unlimited as to what the drones can do for all these different companies. Example is a real estate company. I see now when you have a large property, the realtor is probably, or someone is taking a drone and showing the property through a video, and this drone can do that so easily now. The I guess the government is very looking at drones to help them in all sorts of different environmental monitoring ways, to fight forest fires, you name it. I even can see, or I've seen, probably everyone's seen, Uber is taking just a large scale drone and thinking of using it for passenger travel or transportation in congested cities. And so I think that is actually way closer to reality than people think. It's so yeah, the low cost and the information that a drone can provide works very well in the digital world that we all live in.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's just starting out in the industry? Maybe they're just working on their basic license or their advanced written, and they're looking for some advice from somebody like yourself with years and years of experience.
Well, it's a bit of a tough question. Everyone comes, I think, that is getting involved with drones comes from all different backgrounds, and they're all involved in different businesses. For me, I was always interested in flying a drone because I have my private pilot's license. I love all machines that fly. And but one of the things I think I would key in on is to do a lot of research. There is a lot of good information, of course, on the internet. And if you're really interested in being a drone pilot, there is the ability to go study for your drone license here in Canada. And the drone as well. They're fairly inexpensive, and if you go with the 250-gram or less drone, you don't need a license to fly it. So that was one of the things I did. I actually bought two little drones. They were actually $60, I think, my first one.
One of the things I like to stress with our listeners when they're learning about drones and our past operations in Canada is that even though manned and unmanned aviation seems so different right now, if the more that you can treat unmanned aviation similar to manned with the safety protocols as well as taking the testing seriously and making sure that these topics are well understood, the better you'll be as an operator and the safer you'll be, especially as the technology progresses to a point that you start to see manned and unmanned aviation really integrate. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You really do. And no, you're right. Having knowing about aviation and having that is very valuable and almost essential now, isn't it, to use a drone for commercial use, or if you don't want to do that, even if you're just flying for your own personal use, you have to have the correct knowledge and experience, and most of all, don't get into trouble.
Well, that was Shawn. And Shawn was one of the pioneers in the drone world. He was really at the forefront of the technology, and he was able to leverage his aviation background along with his surveying and earth sciences background to really take advantage of the technology as soon as it became available. He was one of the first advanced certificate holders in the country last year, and he still continues to use drones in commercial operations. We're going to have more of these interview podcasts coming in future episodes. Remember, like our Facebook page and stay tuned for next week when we talk about navigation.